Hi folks, it's me again, and I'm making another video about my R9T racer. Now that I have the racer pretty much exactly as I wanted in terms of the capabilities on the track and on the road, having put Öhlins in the front and in the rear, and the Krakowiak muffler on it, it's time to go into some of the aesthetics. So in this video I'm going to talk about replacing this massive piece of gear that I unplugged from the racer when I go to the track, and replace it with this integrated stoplight turn signal lights for the license plate little guy that I hope to put under the tail. And what I've done so far is do a lot of research about the electrics. So the first thing I found out is that this plug that plugs the whole back unit in is unobtainable. You can't get it from the dealer, you can't get it from Amp, you can't get it from anywhere. So my goal is to have the new light plug and play with the old light, and that requires me to replace this six pin connector with a new one that's a 6-pin connector that I can get and get lots of. So I will start by doing that. But first what I did was took a volt ammeter and I checked out the pins on this connection and the amount of ohms resistance in this whole tail unit and the number of ohms in the bike side of it. And I wanted to make sure that this new light had the same kind of resistance and voltage requirements as the old light. Otherwise you could easily burn something out in the bike, and that would be probably a pretty expensive mistake. So I did a lot of research, did a lot of testing actually, and found what the voltages were going to these pins, what each pin did, which light it went to, and then I did a lot of testing on this guy, which is got the exact same number of wires, and the voltages appear to be exactly the same, and the resistance appears to be exactly the same. So I sucked in a lot of air, held my breath, and wired this up to the old plug on the bike side. And lo and behold, it works. Not only it works without any additional resistance. It works the way it's supposed to. So that was delightful. So now I can go ahead and replace the plug. So my next step was to find a suitable plug to replace the existing plugs on the R9T. And they needed to be automotive style and water resistance. So I went to Allied Electronics, their website, and I found these amp connectors that are Ampseal connectors that have a locking mechanism for putting them together. They only go together one way, and they snap together just like the original. And in addition, there's a lock here that you can lock this connection in place so it can't come apart. It's actually a better plug than what BMW supplied. It's a 6-pin connector, and is going to be what will connect this part to the bike and connect to this part to the bike. So I need 2 of these on the bike side, or 1 of these on the bike side, and 2 of these, which will be the male pin plugs, just like on the original. This is the male side of the plug. 1 for the original tailpiece, and one for the new tailpiece. That way I should be able to just plug and play both of them. In case the new one doesn't work, I want to be able to make sure that this old piece goes back on. So what I'll do now is take these pins, if you can see them, and replace the ends of this new light with these pins, and then you just drive the pins into the connector in the appropriate slot. So these pins are numbered 1 through 6, the same as these are numbered 1 through 6, so we just need to make sure that the wires are connected correctly. So I've mapped these in my earlier work and know which wire connects to which pin connects to each light on this. And I've got a color-coded map of which wire here goes to each of the light functions in this new light. So it should be a fairly easy deal. It's just a matter of cutting wires carefully, making sure that you've got the pins in the right holes when you push them through here, and away you go. So here goes some cutting. Well, it's been about an hour, and what I did in the meantime was I put the pins, the male pins, on the new light, taking off the old connectors, and that seemed to be fairly easy. I started with this because I wanted to do the most replaceable part of this project first, which is the new light, and figure out how to put these pins on the best way. I always solder these pins, so they're crimp kind of pins, but for this application, for any application, I always solder them. So I put a little bit of solder on the wire first, crimp the wire in, and then heat it again and add a little tiny bit more solder to get them to be connected correctly. Then I dared to cut the old plug off and replace it with a new plug. This again is the male side. So that went pretty well until I actually tried to put the wires into the plug, the new pins into the plug. And the pins, which look like this, slide into the back of the plug and snap in place so that they can't pull out. What I didn't know was that the little interior red part here needs to be taken out first so that the pins slide easily past their latch, and then this red part locks them in place when you push this back in over them. So that was a discovery. Fortunately, I have a couple of these, but I got away with doing it. Now on the female side, the plug has another red part, and I was able to lever it up about 1/8 of an inch away from the base, and I'm kind of figuring it's loose, so hopefully that's far enough so that when I push the female pins in on the bike itself, they'll go in easily, and then I just clamp down on this piece and that'll complete the lock. So right now it's time to go out to the garage and do the bike side of this plug, the females, and hopefully plug this original tail light back in and it all should work. That's the plan. Wish me luck. A few minutes, a couple hours, maybe tomorrow. I'll be back. Okay, we're out of the garage now, and this is the devil that we've got to replace next. And I verified that all the wires match up with the same holes. as the other part, as they should. And now I'll clip these wires off, gulp, and put the female plug in place of this plug, the unobtainable plug from BMW. So that's my current task. I've set up here a tail of the racer to do this work. Not as easy as inside at the table, but it'll have to do. Okay, I did it. Cut the old ones off. Yeah, I used a toenail clipper so that I didn't lose any wire cutting these down. And there are the wires with their female plugs on them. Now I gotta put the pins in the plug, and we'll see what happens when I plug them together. Here goes. Now, unlike the male pins where you could see how far they pushed in, because this red cap doesn't come all the way off, you can't really tell. But after I thought I had them all in, if you look at the top here, you can see the metal of the female pins are up against the red thing that once I pushed it down. So I believe they're seated properly. I used a little tiny screwdriver, tiny, because these wires are so thin. I used the screwdriver and pushed it down into the back of the plug. Probably can't see this. And I felt the back of the pin itself that's soldered onto the wire, and pushed using this screwdriver to push that pin into a locking position instead of pushing on the wires, because the wires are just too thin to actually achieve enough push to lock them in place. So, time to plug it together. Okay, I plugged a new plug together. The male pin's in the back and the female in the front. It clicked in place. Now I'll lock it with this handy dandy little lock, theoretically. Oh, it's already locked. Okay, so it can't be undone until that lock is pulled back. And when I turn the bike on, we have liftoff. That's running lights. Let's see if I can set this up right here. Brake lights still work. Left blinker works. Right blinker works. So what we've successfully done, with this endeavor, is replace the unobtainable plug from BMW with a plug that is just as good, if not better, absolutely water sealed and locked, so it can't come apart. Now the only other challenge that I've got with this plug is that the old one would fit through this opening, so that you could easily take the tail section off, pull that plug through and be gone. The new plug I don't think will fit through there, so that could be a challenge. But all the work that remains is to build the taillight platform for the new taillight and license plate holder. I'm going to use the same mounting holes as for this existing section from BMW, And I'm gonna tuck that taillight right down underneath here. So it'll be super cool. Can't wait. Fabrication time. So now we're on the fabrication part of this project. Now that we have the plugs switched out, and I can plug this back in and use it again in case this all goes badly. And what I'm going to do is build a holder for the license plate and the new light. Now this piece here came with the light, and the light basically comes through here and is vertical, supposedly mounted vertical, and the license plate sits here. So I'm going to use this as a template for creating that part of it, and I'm going to use this as the template for creating the part that fits up under the tail section. I'm going to use this 1/16 inch 6061 aluminum, and it's a foot square, and that gives me plenty of space to cover the area that this tail section covers. So if we put this down here and bring it to the end, you can see that it easily comes past these two screw holes, which I'm also going to use, and bolt this up. So it's a matter of just cutting this aluminum piece into the right shape. When reverse engineering these things, of course, you have to work without measurements and figure out how to drill the holes and cut the holes in the right places. In this case, the first holes I had to cut were these, because there's two hangers that come down under the frame, and until you get this flat up under the back of the motorcycle, you don't know where the rest of the holes go. Even so, these holes, I think, are in the wrong places, because I couldn't get it flat, completely flat, before I bent this. I wanted to cut all these holes while it was flat, so I could get it into the drill press without having a part sticking up. This part here is going to be 90 degrees to this part. This part here that holds the license plate itself is going to be a few degrees bent back out. So I used this as the template for the lower part, and I actually used the back of the motorcycle as the template for this upper part. So before I go any further and bend this thing, I've got another piece of aluminum, same stuff. I'm going to trace everything, trace where the holes are, because if these holes are wrong and they're nearby and it can't bolt up as firmly as I'd like, then I have a working template for making the next one. And usually you have to make one or two of these the first time, because you don't know where all these holes should be. So today I'll make a drawing of this one I've done onto this aluminum plate, and then I'll take this out and use a vice brake to bend these and see where we are, see if I can bolt it up. Other than that, it's pretty much done. I'll have to put another hole, probably about here, to pick up this wire coming out of the back of this frame. So the wires go in like that. This gets bent down, But in the back, I've got to come back up into the bottom of the motorcycle and have these wires exposed as little as possible. I'll probably put some shrink wrap around these open wires here, or just push this down probably. Yeah. And then put a zip tie on this so it stays there. Put these back up through and then route it with the into the base of the motorcycle. And the last thing I'll do is put the plug on this. So when everything else is done and it's ready to be, it's mounted and ready to be plugged in, then I'll put the plug on this. So that's today's project. Well, here she is. And as expected, I had to make a second one. And it wasn't the holes. It was the fact that when I used the vice brake to bend this, I didn't have it aligned correctly, and it actually cut through. So I ended up with two pieces. So the second time I was much more careful, and the mounting holes, I got these two correct the first time. These two I had to enlarge in the back. For some reason they didn't line up. And the way I do it is I put the screws, new screws all the way in, and then I take some clamps, clamp this up, and I use a small ball peen hammer to hit the bottom to make the screws make an impression in the top where those holes are. And thought I had it right, but didn't. So I had to make these a little larger than I wanted. I put shrink wrap on the cord here instead of the original, and passed the wire from the back of the stoplights, running lights, up through the piece of aluminum, put a rubber grommet on it, and to make sure that the vibration doesn't cut through. And I can run this right along the top, right into where the other plug is. So I don't have to come up through the original hole at all. And that's what she looks like from the back. And the pod for the racer comes around, I'll show you later, like this, and the screw for the pod actually fits right in this groove here. Outstanding. So off to the garage, plug it in, see if it works later. Well, I haven't mounted it up, but I wanted to plug it in and see if the computer recognized that there's no lights or wrong lights or whatever. But look, no warning indicator at all. Holy shit. Okay, here we are, final test. She's all bolted up. Turn the key on. Taillights come on. No indicator light up front saying there's something wrong. Left turn. Right turn. Brake lights. Awesome. Really happy. And the only thing that I had to do a little different is had to put the seat pod on to get to this back screw here first before I bolted the taillight section up. And what does she look like? Well, can't really tell from in here. Gotta go outside. So here's what she looks like. Flames coming out of the back. I love it. I love the way my R11 had a 100S and My 916 had their exhaust sticking up through the back. Got rid of that whole back tail section. So now she looks nice and bobbed. She's looking good. And I put the Moto Graphics stickers on down the middle. Now when I turned her on, I actually got the engine running. The indicator on the panel came on about lights, so I got to figure that one out. And I think it's just the resistor needs to be in place. But right now it's showing it has a light issue. So, time to put the license plate on. Take this baby out for a ride. Nice. I like it. Thanks for watching.